Hi there, I'm Sam. This is Titan Talks, Topline Pros podcast, where we get to talk to pros about their businesses. And today we're sitting with Anthony Beyo from United Exteriors in Tampa. Hey, Anthony, how's it going?
Well, pretty good. Sam, yourself?
I'm doing really good. I'm really glad that we're chatting, and I have seen the pictures on your website, and I'm really jealous of the sunny weather in Tampa. I mean, honestly, in my background, it looks pretty nice, but there's snow on the ground. So yeah, I'm a little bit jealous, I have to admit.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on the podcast. And the weather so far is holding up. We're getting into some warmer weather, which we enjoy down here. So we're glad the little cold snap that we had is finally gone.
Okay, good to hear. Do you mind starting just by telling me about yourself and about your business?
Yeah, sure. I'm originally from Melbourne, Florida, to the East Coast. Always had a desire for the construction industry and had some relatives that did it, whether it be pool construction or concrete. Was always out there on the weekends or spring break in summer and, doing it with them. But my calling came first to go to the Army. So I was in the Army right out of high school for 10 years. Did a few tours overseas with the Army. But when I got out, I just knew, construction or some type of modeling is definitely where I wanted to be. So I was lucky enough to get a job at a company in Texas when I got out of Fort Hood. Taught me the ins and outs of the industry. And I knew as I became, I guess you can say, a executive member of the company, that it wasn't doing things that I think a construction company should do, especially remodeling. So I decided to go and part ways, move back home to Tampa, Florida, and start our own. And it's one thing that we focus on is customer satisfaction at a very forefront. Well, that's pretty much
Okay.
it. That's in a nutshell, man. We'll start delivering like
That's a great summary. So you got out of the Army. First of all, thank you for your service. And that was in 2016, is that right?
Yeah, so I was in from '06 to 16.
Okay. And it sounds like your relationship with this company that you were working with, like kind of like a mentorship situation at first, and then you decided that if you had your own company, things would work differently. That's kind of what you're alluding to.
Correct. Yeah. Well, if you're asking for $1 or asking for $1 million, it's the same service that should be provided. And at some point it wasn't. And a couple of meetings occurred where I was trying to get the production side to meet up with the monetary side of being asked for a customer. Well, unfortunately, it was more based on the next sale. It wasn't so much based on the satisfaction of the completion of the job. So I like to go to sleep at night with a very clear conscience. It was getting to a point where it's like, man, I'm asking all this money and the work's not living up to it. So that's why we decided to peel away. And I say we, as in me and my family, and head back down to Tampa and do our thing.
It's interesting. Like, obviously, at Top on Pro, we hope that a lot of our pros like really do keep customer care as a central, focus of their business, and we try to make that as easy as possible for people. But I haven't heard someone describe their origin story of starting their business as that. Most people, hey, I have the skills, I decided this was a good way to make money. Like, I guess what I'm asking is, have you not felt this way, that the customers maybe weren't being treated the way that you would hope? Like, would you have started a business on your own? Was being a business owner something that was important to you? Or was it something that you felt you were kind of called to do because you care about the customer experience and they weren't getting it?
Yeah, that was a little mixture of both, honestly. As a young kid, at 12 years old, I started my first business. It was called Rent a Kid Landscaping. My slogan on the back of the shirt was, "I can do a lot in an hour," and I charged $8 an hour, from pulling weeds to cutting grass to trimming trees or planting new plantings. Always wanted to be the entrepreneur to start my own thing. And even in the Army, I always had something on the side, whether I would build patios for people or decks. That was kind of my bread and butter, me doing something like that by myself. And, to go back to the question of if it wasn't a lack of customer service in the other company where I stayed or left. I do believe that even if it wasn't because of that, at some point in time, I definitely would have done it on my own. Um, I think maybe if I would have a partnership with that so-called mentor rather than a separate ties and we're each going to go our own ways.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I feel like I want to talk more about the Rent-A-Kid landscaping, maybe later on. But
Yeah, man.
it sounds like it's been in your bones for your whole life. So that makes a lot of sense. Fast forwarding a bit to business today, can you tell me more just about how United Exteriors, runs, how many employees, and sort of where are your jobs coming from? Like, how do you make sure
Yeah.
that work is coming in?
Yeah. So Frental is really just really referrals. I definitely have some third party platforms that I use that provide the lead services that come in, and website's really big because Google Ads or Google Drive will definitely come into play that people can find us and search us with their SEO. But it's, for instance, one neighborhood. I don't look at a job in a neighborhood as one job. I look at it as a neighborhood for multiple jobs because I do want people to see what's going on, and I do want people to come up and ask questions. And I want the homeowner to speak about us. So really, I'd probably say 50% of our inbound work is referrals by houses that we're doing for neighbors that are around the area. My average, I guess I can say my average lead source, if I do one house in the neighborhood, I will most likely pick up 5, if not 6 other houses, whether it be in the same product that we're installing and siding, or it might be a window job or a roofing job or a patio job, or some people might just say, hey, do you want it all? So if you all 4 or 5 products that you offer. So the lead sources, some are purchased, but my 50%, if not more, is coming from a referral basis. And that, not so much as an ego thing, but more of I know I've hit my target that I've focused on because I can't get to a referral if the customer's not satisfied. A lot of folks always ask me, well, because it wasn't just because of your yard sign, it was because I watched the work get done and I went and talked to that person after it was finished and they said nothing but good things about you. So we would love to give you the same opportunity. So that's really the majority of where it comes from, employee wise. My bread and butter on the company is siding. We definitely do nothing but James Hardy siding. So we don't do anything vinyl, no metal, no wood. I'll replace wood if there needs to be. So if it's just a basic paint job, of course, we'll patch and repair. But I always try to bring the forefront of how important James Hardy is to my house for structural purposes, and honestly, down here in the Tampa market and surrounding, cost versus value brings it up and said that you can recoup 102% of your investment on your own, so that right there is a huge seller for people. And I am one of very few vendors in the state that's authorized to use a specific paint. That's a lifetime coating that doesn't chip, peel, flake, or fade ever. So, homeowners definitely see that benefit. And when you pair those two together, one of my other products come in being roofing, windows, and patios, it's almost like just a reno basis. Once the siding's going on and they see the work, like, well, all right, we'll do the windows now. And well, okay, we do need a new roof. So I would say employee wise, my siding, I have 4 siding crews of 5 guys each. So that's 20, I have 1 roofing crew that really the roofing crew, 12 guys. So you can call it 3 crews if you want. We range from asphalt shingle into metal, really pushing metal hard. When I do shingle, of course, DeSantis, the governor here, passed a bill in January last year. Doesn't matter what shingle you use, every 14 years you got to replace it. But if it's metal, it can be a lifetime. So that's why I really focus. I try to push permanent solutions. I don't look at customers as a repeat based on, let me come do your siding and paint and come paint your house again in 5 or 8 years. No, I want you to repeat business with me based off of additional products, because once you use one of my products, that's it. It's the last time that you do it. So altogether, I'd say crew wise, we'll probably sit right around 40 guys. I have a couple teammates that are in production. I have main foremen that overlook each category that really help me, I guess you can say, manage everything that's out in the field. You know, we have a couple sales guys, including myself. You know, that's my forte, is getting in there and learning about the customer, what they want. And then I also look over the marketing department of it all. So altogether, about 45 people are involved.
It's a sizable operation, and I am interested in your role, you know, as business owner. You mentioned sales and marketing. Like, what else takes up your time trying to run this business?
You. Well, to tell you this, for anybody that's out there thinking about doing it, I always knew a business owner would take a lot of your time, but I didn't anticipate as much time. So it's all from the forefront, and I'm a trooper by heart. So no matter what, if I expect my guys to go run 2 or 3 leads a day, I'm right there with them. You know, I'll rotate with them in the field and run appointments, or if you get overloaded, I'll go run my own. And of course, I'm backdooring all of that with marketing to get us in that point. I'm handling all the accounting, the booking associated with my personal accountant that helps me out. And then I am actually out there. I have no problem if one of my installers isn't doing it properly, climbing up the ladder and grabbing the gun and showing them how to attach it properly. You know, so I would say my hands are on every single thing that's out there that's involved with the business. And a very close mentor of mine said it perfectly, that if you can wake up in the morning and do something for free, then you know you've made it to your calling of the business that you've chosen. But you can't be afraid to do everything that you ask other people to do. And that's just something that I really stick close to my heart and live by. You know, so I have no problem, you know, God forbid if people quit or left me and I had to go out there and do the work myself. I am knowledgeable enough to where I can tear a whole entire house apart and put everything back together.
That, I feel like, speaks to something that I definitely wanted to ask you about, because it's on your website. You mentioned the servant leader mentality. Is that kind of what you're talking about there?
Yes, absolutely.
Can you go more into that? Like, where does that come from, and why is it so important to you?
My biggest fan, Jesus, you know, was the biggest servant there was. Um, but I found that if you're willing to help others succeed before you succeed, there's a greater reward in that. And I mean, there's been times where it's come down to clients want to do the work, but they financially just can't afford it. And there's been times where, you know, now insurance is involved and they're threatening to drop them. And down here in Florida, you don't really want to have a house with no insurance. I'm not sure everybody knows about the massive storm we just recently had. But so what I can do is if I can serve the family in a way that it might take a hit on my back, and I will, you know, because I just know that future road and future endeavors, it'll always come back. And I don't expect it. I just know from experience, it's just what happens. And also servant leaderhood that's bringing in my employees. And I don't just look at them as someone swinging the handle or going to an appointment. I look at them as family and let me help you grow. You know, what are you really passionate about? Is this really what you want to be? What you want? Or is there something out there that you're really intrigued about? And if I have the tools and the ways to help you out, I have no problem giving up my personal time and sitting down and helping you walk through that and achieve it. So servant leader mentality, and I instill that in everybody. And that's one thing that everybody who comes to work for us has to know, that we're there to serve others before we serve ourselves.
We hear from a lot of people about the difficulty of hiring and maintaining the workforce. You know, if you've got 45 people, where are you finding these people who are passionate about the work and that, you know, you can trust on the job?
Where travel's quick when you're paying good, you know, so when, you know, I was super blessed with my first crew. He's now my main foreman. And Andrea is my right-hand man in the field, along with my production manager, Ruben. But Andrea is, I can give him the packet that my guys get, and I know it's going to be done properly for county and state inspections, you know, from start to finish of party manual inspections. I don't have any doubt. And that really came one day that he was tired of working through a very large conglomerate out here to where it was mixed matches. Maybe you got a job and you wait weeks and get a job. Maybe you got 2 jobs and you wait months and get a job. So my biggest thing is that any crew that would come on board in the beginning, they got essentially babysit, and I babysit. And I just wanted to watch them day in, day out, see how they operate. Then, of course, you give them another job and you don't babysit them as much. And then, you go check up on them. And then you finally give them a job where you're really not babysitting at all. Then they're just paying attention to the customer. And then you can always tell if they're doing it correctly, if they're passing their inspection through the county on first time goes. And that's my biggest thing. And anyone who comes on board knows that county inspection is very important to me. It should be for anybody. And as long as you get your the first time go, we'll continue giving you work and we'll be very consistent. My guys can come walk in the office, and before I blurred my screen out, you probably saw that black thing hanging behind me with, I think I got 19 folders on there. That 19 installs that got to be done, in the next 6 to 8 weeks. That's my time frame that I tell people. So they get super excited when they come in there and they see they're colored. Every team has a color, and you see more, more folders being added. So they know they have a consistent work rate. But they had to work for it. They couldn't just get it and run with it. I'm taking a chance on them tearing someone's house. When you're tearing someone's house apart, the homeowner gets freaked out. So now I gotta, just reassure them, through my presentation that this is a process. It's okay. This is what happens. So for the most part, my guys, they serve one another. They serve the family that they're helping there at the house. And they know as long as we keep consistently good craftsmanship, we'll pass inspections, and customers are satisfied, and they'll always have work. I will do my best to find work for everybody.
Gotcha. I think, there's that word again, serving. I think I'm getting a sense of you and of, United Exteriors. It's like you invest, each job is an investment, by doing the high quality work. You're not only marketing yourself because someone's walking over and saying, hey, that, new siding looks great. Who did it? But there's potentially repeat customers, like not because something went wrong, after a few years, but because there's more products that they're like, oh, I actually need a new roof. I actually need, windows or whatever. And, I'm a software engineer here. So that mentality really rings for me, because that's the same thing you do when you're building software. If you're building shoddy work, you're not saving time. You just have to come back and do it again later. So I feel like I'm really getting a good sense of you and your work. And I do wonder, can you share with me, like, there must have been some growing pains, right? Because from when you started to where you are now, like, you seem pretty stable. Like, this is definitely paying the bills for you now. Were there points where the growth of this business, you were like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know, how this is all going to work out.
Yeah, right at the beginning, the first year, it was tough. And it was penny pitching tough because, I've again been blessed in many ways that most of my clients are cash, rather than having to use a financing platform. And when some customers need to use a financing platform, they can't put deposits down. Now I'm forefronting the entire job until it's finished, and they have to sign off on a form so I can send that back to the financing company. They send that back. They now send me money. So definitely the first year was tough. Thankfully, I was good at what I did, and the other company that I worked for, I was able to stash away some good money. But when you're doing $60,000-$70,000 jobs, and your materials are third of that, it's a lot of money to put out. And I always make sure that my guys get paid up front. Not up front, but progress payments. As long as they hit phases, they'll always get a check on Friday. And so that was another thing that made it a stressor, to make sure that I upheld my end of the deal and giving them a check on Friday when I have nothing coming in yet. So
Yeah.
The growing pains were essentially forefronting the money for the projects, but also trying to figure out the market, trying to figure out your demographics and where your hotspots are. And I try to tell this to anybody who wants to get into the industry. And, you know, your number one starting point should literally be you canvassing, knocking on the, introducing yourself to the community, showing who you are, just leaving a pamphlet, maybe setting an appointment if you can over board. And that was another growing pain, figuring out how I can get that started and not have to hire multiple people at X amount of dollars per hour and yada, yada. So it was a growing pain of figuring out the marketing, and you will know, I mean, anybody, marketing is not cheap. You know, and when you're buying lead sources, that's not cheap. You know, so now, excuse me, taking a risk on forthcoming that money again to bring in those leads in hopes that you can go in there and capture the business. And another growing pain, definitely that strikes the tip of the match there is the trust. I mean, the trust that I had to have for my crews. You know, you can go in there and promise the world to the customer, but don't over promise. And then when the crew finally gets out there and started doing the work, are they really going to live up to what you talked about? Yeah. And again, thankfully, going back to Andreas, when we came on board, I was super blessed to have someone that instantly had a spell-to-birdie trust factor. And then you're always going to have your growing pains where customers just don't get it. They don't like it. You know?
Yeah.
Now you're finding yourself tearing stuff off and redoing the work, you know, so, or even, you know, mishaps happen, you know, throwing nails through electrical lines or throwing nails through water lines, you know, and now you're, might be replacing some drywall inside or running some new electrical. I mean, very minute growing pains, but enough to get you kind of second guessing the first year, like, was this the right decision? You know, did I make the right move to leave a very high paying job to do my own thing?
It's funny, like I never really thought about it this way, but the way you're talking about it, like, yeah, doing siding, like taking something off someone's house, it's like surgery. It's like there's something off-putting about seeing like the innards, you know, the bones of your house. And it's like, you really have to trust those people because you're like, you better put this all back together better than it was before, because otherwise, like, this is where I live, you know, like the wind's coming right in. Do you feel like you really have like people's sort of livelihoods in your hands when you're doing that kind of work?
100%. Yeah. And it affects them in every single way. I have a very, very step-by-step presentation that we follow inside the house by trial and error, you know, homeowner know what to expect, you know. And everyone always asks me, well, how quick can you get it done? And my first response is, long with quality demand. You know, I'm not here to give you a time frame, because I've had some houses where I think it's 10 days and it goes 15, 16. Or maybe it goes, you know, longer than that. But yes, you know, when you're prepping that homeowner, you think you did your job, but until the work actually starts and they see their entire walls off, you know, and then now you're putting everything back in stages that you have to, it can definitely rattle them for sure. I mean, even with roofing, you know, windows, same thing. Patios, not so much, because they're just, it's outside of, oh, you know, it's a great thing to have. When you're talking about the structural side of the actual home, it is, nerve-wracking for them.
You know, I'm up in the Northeast, and I have to admit we're exploring some exterior options on my own home, and you know, and I'm learning that a lot of it is about keeping moisture out, you know, where water has penetrated. And I imagine in Florida, with all the storms and the humidity, like when you start pulling off siding, are you finding bigger issues as you get started and you have to have these conversations with the homeowner where you say, listen, this is going to be more complicated because we found like there's rot or there's water that got in where it's not supposed to be?
Yeah. I mean, going back to the initial consultation with the presentation that we have, it brings that, you know, and I always try to keep everything very relaxed and serious at the same time. And I just tell folks, I haven't developed X-ray vision yet, you know, so, but from my experience, during the presentation, I do show them jobs that we've done. And I always do bring up one of my horror jobs when we did tear off the siding, where we initially had to reframe the entire house. I mean, no matter where we tore off the siding, it was either termites had attacked it and they already did the termite, you know, tenting, but they didn't fix it because the siding's not off, water damage and intrusion as their cause, so much stuff that, I literally, not even 2 months ago, had them reframe an entire home. So yes, those are things I can't foresee. And there's a checkbox in our agreement where they acknowledge that, hey, if any unforeseen damages do occur, we'll have the conversation. I've had a homeowner tell me we'll just cover it, and I tell them I'm not doing that, because one, it's not per code, and two, that's just the wrong thing to do. So if you don't want to pay the money, then maybe I stop where I'm at, and maybe need to find a different company, but that's not me, And once you start having that conversation, they kind of tighten up a little bit and say, all right, how much? And I'm not into gouging, because those are things I can't see. So pretty much when I open up the wallet, and if there is an issue, I'm charging labor and material. That's it. There's no profit or overhead on it. I don't ever expect to do that.
Gotcha. Maybe X-ray vision for you all will be Topline Pro's next product. It sounds like it would be really helpful.
We can make it happen. We're gonna crush the world if you can make that happen.
So yeah, speaking of, I mean, where in this process did you meet Topline Pro? How did you get started with us?
How did I get? I think it was more along the lines of me. I never really had a digital appearance in the beginning. It was about mid-2024, and I said, all right, I'm doing enough work where I need to start becoming more digital. People need to start seeing. And I won Canva, just kind of started doing my own, website designing, and I just looked at it, and my fiance looked at it, and she said, maybe it's time to find somebody. So I found you guys. Got on board with you, liked it, and worked with Jane. And my nephew got into the industry, and uncle trying to be the good uncle, helping the nephew out get first in. He wanted to take over with the company that he was with to kind of do his thing, and immediately where Topline had me, immediately I just dropped. Like I dropped.
Oh, yikes!
And I gave him about, I don't know, 3 months, 4 months. And I called him and I said, hey man, like I'm not visible anymore. And you got 15, 30 days to figure this out. And he's like, okay, well, he couldn't figure it out. So when I called back to Jane and said, hey, I'm coming back. She's like, what? All right, I'm happy. But that's I've literally searched for you guys, had a great experience. Again, just trying to help out the nephew, getting him started in the industry. But found out, realizing that you guys have been my first pick, and should just stuck with it. And I'm glad to be back with you.
Hey, no hard feelings. It's there's so much out there, and you're not the only person who's tried something else and come back. And it's great for us because, I mean, first of all, Jane is awesome. And when she reached out to me and she's like, Anthony wants to do an episode, like, he kind of left us, like he came back. It's like, that's awesome to hear because it means we're doing something right. And, no offense to your nephew, like this stuff is harder than it looks, just like the jobs of all of the pros that we serve. So, I'm glad that it worked out. I'm glad you're back with us. And it seems like everything's been going well since you came back.
Absolutely. Yeah, we just picked up where we left off. While we're adding some things to it. We're working on that. Well, I'm sure whoever's listening or been on the podcast can vouch for this. My sales aren't down, but they're not where I want them to be right now. It should be a little bit projected higher. So a lot of people freak out and try to tighten up, and that's when you actually double down on the marketing to bring it back up. So that we're working on right now is just to get us more awareness and appearance in the local community and people. The storms that we had definitely spiked everybody. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, whether siding, roofing, windows, or all of it. The huge storms that we had, it definitely spiked everyone. So everyone's, those key terms that they're looking for. I want to be on the top, nowhere near as large as some of my competitors, but maybe not in the sense of how many storefronts I have, but when it comes to competing on quality, I'll put my guys against anybody. So I need my key terms to come up. So when people see it, I'm in the door and I'll do the rest from there. Just give me it. So I really appreciate that Topline has done everything they've done. Get me back on track, on board. We're slowly climbing back up there. I'm really looking forward to the future of what we can grow together, for sure.
What would you say like your goal is? It's that, like, do you want to grow as big as some of those competitors, or do you, is it more just about providing quality work to the, Tampa area? Like what are you kind of envisioning for United?
Yeah, I mean, everybody wants to grow. Everybody wants to be the big dog and, sitting on top of the throne and, well, look at me. I'm more of a guy that I like to fly under the radar until it's too late. And then when people realize who I am, they think I'm new, but I've been around for a while. So the answer to the question would be my next focal point for this year is really just expanding more of the Tampa market, establishing that and having a consistency, which I look for. Then we're going to jump back over to Texas and open up a couple shops in Texas as we grow and expand.
Okay.
We're going to jump over to Tennessee and, wherever the path and the good Lord sends me and says, hey, this is where you need to be and this is where the spot is. That's where I'm going to go. But eventually, everyone's got to have their exit strategy. So this is my retirement, man. I want the day to come where someone knocks on the door and says, hey, you're very legitimate business. You're running it right. Here's what we offer. And if you're interested, go for it. Or maybe more of my kids want to take it over. And I can go disappear somewhere in the woods in the mountains and not have a phone next to me.
Wow.
That's a target, man. That's my big target right there.
That's the dream. That
Yeah.
sounds amazing. I hope you get there someday.
Me too.
Any advice for people who are trying to do what you've done, in the last 10-ish years to get where you are?
You can wake up and do this for free and you found your call, but at the end of the day, it is a grind. It is a day in, day out grind. Been blessed to be a people person. So when I sit in front of people, I guess they just really take a liking to me and trust. So if you have the attributes and the trading skills to go and sit in front of someone in their house and get them to come on board, that's the key factor right there. Or find somebody that can do it. And maybe that person starting a company better in the field rather than in their home. Just find out where your strengths are and then work off of that and fill in the voids that you're not strong with, and just be prepared for their long days, long nights, frustrating moments, and when stuff hits the fan, don't freak out, just calm down, it'll work itself out. It always does. Your main concern is keeping the customer satisfied and happy. And if you can do that and really put that servant leader mentality in the customer, I don't see why you wouldn't be successful.
That's great advice, and I think a great way to wrap up. That's Anthony Beyo from United Exteriors, Tampa. Thank you for coming on the pod. It was a pleasure getting to know you and get to know your business. And I hope you do continue to grow and get to the mountains without your phone someday.
Yeah,
Me
no,
too, hopefully.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, man. Yeah, I hope you get there.
All right.
Too.
Have a good one.
Okay, you too.